Good evening. I'd like to call the Board of Public Works meeting of May 4th, 2016 to order. First thing is ask if anybody is taking this other than LCAT.
Shirley Tancredi for the minutes.
Thank you. First on the agenda is to review and approve the minutes of the meeting of April 20th, 2016.
I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the minutes of 4/2016.
Second.
All right, any discussions? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, next, superintendent's report.
Before I get started, I did want to note that we have a resident on Orpheum Avenue who's asked to speak to the board tonight, so I indicated to her that when she comes in, we would, be willing to give her an opportunity. So I'd suggest that wherever we happen to be in the agenda, that we stop at that point and then pick up afterwards.
We can do that.
Sounds good.
I promise I will be short tonight. A couple of recaps. Mr. Burak will be participating in the LCAT taping tomorrow night in preparation for the town meeting which will be on May 16th at 7 p.m. The Board of Public Works has 4 articles that the board will be speaking to, and Mr. Burak will be speaking on the board's behalf tomorrow night during the LCAT taping. I will also be meeting with Selectman Manley tomorrow to get him up to speed regarding the landfill property swap that we've been involved in, but ultimately as a Board of Health responsibility. Since he's new to the board, he doesn't know a lot of the past history, so I'll be getting him up to speed, and then he'll be speaking to that article tomorrow night at the taping.
Has he taken on the role of selectman responsible for Board of Health?
My understanding is that determination hasn't been made. There was not a decision made at the last Board of Selectmen meeting, but Selectman Federici is out of town, I believe, and I don't know if Selectman Gorman is back yet or not. So he's been the de facto selectman available for this past week or two.
Got it, understand.
Wanted to note, as you've probably seen by the message boards in town, that we are moving ahead with the last piece of our paving project from last year that we had deferred to give the water main break location on Chestnut Street a chance to settle. The adjustment of structures is ongoing this week. Lane construction is expecting to then be on site probably the end of next week, Thursday or Friday, weather permitting, providing the weather is as expected. It'll be paved by the end of next week.
Beautiful.
Will be a disruption, but primarily a one-day disruption when the paving activity is going on. We will, in the next week or two, be starting our spring crack sealing program this year. We had expected to start it this week, but with the wet weather all week, it's been kicked back at least a week, maybe 2 weeks, no more than that.
Understandable.
And recapping, that's going to involve about 3 miles of crack sealing, maybe a little bit more, because we did receive a very competitive price this year, and we basically spend up to the funds that we have available. So if the bid comes in low, we're able to do more crack sealing as a result of that. The areas that have been identified right now is crack sealing the rotary, and we will be talking to the contractor about doing that work at nighttime, because it'd be pretty difficult to do a good job and do it without creating a major traffic problem.
Notice a couple little potholes in the rotary. We'll fix those before we get...
We would, yeah. Potholes in the rotary.
Oh,
Couple
yeah.
would take care of, yeah. Beyond that, we're looking at, there's a section of North Main Street from Lombard back to Stop and Shop that needs to be done one side of the road. Actually, I think both sides of the road need to be done there. Shaker Road, within the available funds last year, we did one half of Shaker Road from the Rotary down to Chestnut on the southbound section. Now we'll be coming back and heading northbound from Chestnut back to the Rotary. Portions of Allen Street are going to be repaved this year. The areas that aren't going to be repaved, that aren't in as bad of condition, will be crack sealed. So we're using kind of a hybrid approach to stretch the monies as far as we can. Porter Road, there's a section from Heritage Circle where we stopped the paving work last year to Parker Street. That is in pretty good shape. That will be crack sealing. We don't need to spend the money on repaving that at this time. The east end of Pease Road from house number 54 back to Summers. Actually, I'm talking about paving, sorry about that. And then it depends on available funds, how far. It depends on how much material they actually have to use in the cracks. We may be able to get to Vineland Avenue and do a portion of Vineland. We've also looked at possibly going down Summers Road from Michael Street down towards the Connecticut line. So The
Yep.
first streets I read through are the ones we're pretty certain we'll be able to do. The other two streets, Vineland and Summers, heading towards Connecticut, are the areas that we would go next, depending on available funding. The calendar year 16 paving project, we are meeting with Palmer Paving tomorrow, who was the low bidder on this year's paving project. Expect that they'll have some schedule information to present to us tomorrow. We don't have anything at this point, but based on the fact that we bid it relatively early in the season, I would expect that most of the work to be done, springtime into summertime. And again, a recap on that, we're doing portions of Allen Street, we're doing Porter Street from Allen to the Springfield-Wilbraham line. We're doing Markham Road, we're doing the east end of Pease Road from number 54 up to Summers, which is where we left off 2 years ago.
On Markham, do we have to do something with drainage down there?
We are down at the very bottom, right as you come around to the bottom, and there's that little hook at the end of the roadway. We are putting a catch basin in. There's currently no catch basin right at that location, and connecting that into the existing
How are we
storm
going to keep the mud out of the catch basin?
We're also putting in some curbing that'll help to stabilize, to keep the erodible material in the farm field, and also give a ramp basically for the equipment to go in and out. What happens right now is that area gets stabilized, and then the equipment runs over it the next year and it gets torn up again, and it'll be a wide section of Cape Cod berm that'll be a mountable berm that tractors can be run up over the top of to minimize the disturbance to the edge of the roadway there. And then we continue, as we do every year, working with Mr. Burney so that when he's done farming the field at the end of the year, that he does some regrading to grade the water away from the edge of the roadway. What tended to happen a couple of years ago was, as a result of the equipment activity, there was a little bit of a depression that was created that just funneled all the runoff down into the road.
Right, I know, just with that new stormwater stuff, I mean, we don't want to be cleaning the catch basin
Right.
every month.
Right. At least now we'll have a catch basin, we'll have something to clean, whereas before we didn't, and
Right.
we would be cleaning it when we plowed the roads. Yeah, yeah. Let's see, and then two other additional sections. There's a section of Millbrook from number 154 up to Sanford, probably the worst section of Millbrook that we're going to take care of. And then right at the Sanford, right at that intersection, Millbrook-Sanford going to Wyndham, we'll be continuing past that intersection a couple hundred feet up to Wyndham, again, taking care of some of the worst sections. A couple of other items. We met today with Steve Bonier. Steve is one of the two gentlemen that's going to be assisting the department this spring and summer through the Senior Work Assistance Program. Steve has good skills and capabilities relative to landscape maintenance, and we're going to have him working with our Parks Department in doing some of the day-to-day type of cleaning up of beds, maintaining beds, things like that, that sometimes our crews don't have the time to do. So he'll be going to the Council on Aging, he'll be going to the Town Hall, police station, other kind of high-profile locations on at least a weekly basis, if not more often, weeding, deadheading, doing things like that to
Yeah.
improve the appearance of.
Yeah, Steve's a great guy.
High school courtyard on our list. High school courtyards
Yes,
on our list.
yes. I believe Mr. Anderson was in there a couple of weeks ago, because I did get a work order for that.
Awesome.
And that we did speak about that today as one of the target areas. We also spoke about on the bike path. You might be aware that there are a number of historical significant signs that were put up several years ago, probably by a volunteer group, with some small plantings around those signs, and those are in need of some upkeep as well. So it's those types of things that are at a scale that we don't always get to necessarily with our own staff.
Awesome.
That it'll be a big help for.
Cool.
And we have another gentleman coming in next week, Robert Bostwick, and we're going to be asking him to help us out with some of the parade route preparation, getting some of the signposts painted, getting some of the hydrants painted and things like that, so we can spruce up that area, in addition to what we'll be doing with our own crews with the line striping and things like that. At this point, if we wanted to break,
Yeah.
I did give the board a heads up that you'd be coming in today, so if you wanted to introduce yourself for for the tape's benefit, and I gave the board a copy of a couple of photographs, and you may have some photographs of your own, just to get them up to speed and try to bring them up to speed on the history as well.
Sure.
Here's what they have in front of them.
Thank you. All right, so I'm Nicole Sadowski, and I live at 19 Olympium Avenue, East Long Meadow. And I just wanted to discuss my yard and the building that's behind it. Are we going into that now, or are you breaking?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. So I moved in 4 years ago, January. That spring, I woke up one morning and there was a construction crew in my yard. So when we bought the house, the property was, I knew it was a Longtown property, and there was a very small, brick building, a little ways out, cute little yard. It was very level. And then I woke up to this construction crew, and I had no idea, and this building was going up. I never had any issues with the building, but during the time that the building was being put in, there was obviously a lot of activity going on. There was a lot of construction, there were a lot of vehicles in and out. The building was put pretty close to our property line. There is a dry river that comes out from the back of it, which the first thing I want to say about that is that it's a catch-all for garbage. Leaves, weeds growing up out of it. It just looks terrible. It has a lot of very sharp rocks. It's not a pretty sight. So there was that. The trucks came in, the ground was very level, and I have some photos. I don't know, should I hand these out to you guys? I have some photos from when we bought the house showing that the property was very level. There was a big, beautiful tree in the back. The tree wasn't doing so well, so it was taken down so that it wouldn't affect the building if it were to come down. So here's the picture of it, my kids. And it was very, very level. Once the crew came in, I have a lot of pictures, not too many actually, just about 12. Once the crew came in, they put up the building and the ground got built up. So the property along my house now is like a bowl. It's kind of like a catch-all. There's runoff from the property. I know that, well, I found out after I bought it that this was a very wet area. So there's a swamp around the area. It gets very wet. It runs off into the yard. I cannot keep grass growing there, which is fine. That's something we've dealt with every year. When it first happened, there was obviously a problem with something there. The water pipes released into the yard. It flooded everything. It flooded the basement. It flooded the garage. It damaged a lot. I tried to deal with the construction company. I sent them photos. I sent them a list of things that were damaged. I never heard anything. At this point, almost 4 years later, 3.5 years later, what I'm most bothered by is the fact that there's this huge stump that takes up 1/8 of my backyard. Now, the tree was cut down so that it wouldn't fall into any buildings, but now I have this huge stump I've been trying to burn out for years, and it's just not going anywhere. It's creating an issue with space in the yard. I'd like the stump removed. I have this huge building in the back of my yard now that is an eyesore. It's just not pretty at all. We knew that this wasn't a house we were going to be in forever. I'd like to sell the house, maybe list it next year. And the way the property looks right now from the back, it's just unattractive. And I feel like it's more than likely going to drop the value of the home. Not only that, the fumes that come out of it every Wednesday. I know that the town has worked with me on this, and they extended this pipe up. Every Wednesday the generator goes off, and it releases, it seems to be diesel, it could be gas, I don't know, but it's very heavy and it settles. So no matter what, I can't open my windows when it's going off. The smell is horrible. It's loud. it's disruptive. And I know there's really not much that can be done about that, but I'm thinking that I would really like a fence, so I don't have to look at this building, and if there's any way to get any trees or shrubbery or anything to dampen the sounds and help prevent these gases from coming into my home every spring and summer. It's awful opening the windows on Wednesdays. It may seem like it's just a small period of time and not a big deal, but it's been going on for years, every single week, and it's really starting to get to me. The site of the building, the water runoff that comes out from the property, the stump that we cannot seem to get rid of, which is just such a huge undertaking. So I would like these things addressed, see if there's anything that we can do about them.
I think it's something we can go out there and take a look at and
Yeah.
Yeah.
see what we can do. I'm sure the stump is
I'm
easy to remove.
sure we could remove the stump
Yeah.
and plant the lawn there.
Yeah, as soon as it was taken down, but I'd like to go out and take a look at it.
It's a pretty big stump.
Yeah.
Yeah. It looks it.
Yeah,
It is.
yeah.
It is, that tree was, oh.
Do we know where the property line is?
That's another thing, is I'm not even positive. I know that you guys had said that you'd marked it with something when you started the construction, but I honestly don't know.
We did early on. One of the sheets that I passed out to the board has a copy of the town's parcel mapping, which is it's not survey grade mapping, but it gives a pretty good indication of what property boundaries look like, and that it appears that the rear boundary is probably in the range of 6 to 8 feet behind your garage. I don't know if that's your general understanding as well.
Yeah.
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 So I think that's about where the property boundary is.
Yeah, and I have two little boys, and they're 8 and 11, and you know, they want to go run around, and I don't really want them running around the building, and I don't want them running around the dry riverbed with all the rocks, and it's, you know, it's not really, I don't want them wandering into it. It was one thing when it was just level, you know, but that's not the case anymore. I'd like to avoid it.
You know, if you'd like, and if the board chairman is, you know, willing, we could certainly set up a time at the end of the day or something like that for the chair or others to come out and take a look at the property.
Yeah.
I'll note that if we look at putting up a fence, it will, you know, it may improve the rear of the property aesthetically, because now you'd be looking at a nicer looking fence in the rear of the brick or the brick face building. It would though limit access to the town property, so there is a trade-off there. Yeah.
I don't need access
Okay.
to the property. I don't need it.
Okay.
I mean, looking at these pictures, it looks like some of these water issues were during construction.
There definitely were.
Do they not exist today?
The big issue that we had, and we admit that we had an issue, was shortly after the construction was completed, before the station was fully commissioned and fully operational. There's a pressure relief valve that's intended to prevent the piping from becoming overpressurized and
Right.
that leaves to the back of the building. And that's why that stone
The
swale is
riprap's there, right?
And what that riprap does is it flows to a catch basin that then drains out to the street.
Correct.
There's a limit switch, an alarm that tells us if and when that pressure switch or that pressure valve activates. That alarm wasn't operational yet, so it overflowed for hours
Yes.
without our staff being aware of it. And you know, we respond with minutes within minutes anytime we see anything happening there. But we should have, and as a result of that, the contractor assisted us in restoring the property and you know, planting.
They adjusted the valves
Yeah.
so that they weren't facing my property. Unfortunately, when it went off, the amount of water and the power that came out for a couple, it was early morning, so we weren't even awake yet. We had no idea either, but it definitely degraded some of the area. But like I said, it was just, the property was just level, it was flat. And then with the taking down of the tree and the trucks in and out for that, and the rebuilding of the property, you know, after they had done the base of the building, it just built up. So the property at first was very level. Now, when you look at it, my property, it goes this way and then it comes up and there's just a lot of runoff. So that's what I was thinking, even if we could get anything planted along it, something to just help soak up.
Does the water not move to the street pump?
It does. I think the original grading was a very gentle slope.
Right.
And because we've essentially flattened the site to
Right.
build the building, it steepened the backside of the property. So it
Right.
looked, like it wasn't perceptible as a slight grade. Is now much more.
So it looks like there's a swale between the two properties and the water's supposed to move?
It does generally move to the southerly direction, I believe. I think, the water issue to a greater point, it was that initial construction issue, which
Yeah.
hopefully we're put behind us.
Yeah, it's just that now it's like because there's that, anytime in the spring, it just gets so wet. And everything just kind of settles in the yard, in this like bowl shape now that's kind of caused from the build of the property that every year we're putting down, just the other day, we put down 2 yards of soil. We do this every single year just to try to build it back up and get some grass to grow. And
So-
it's every
So
year.
we could grind this and regrade this and seed it?
We could grind it, it wouldn't be a big deal, absolutely.
No.
And then,
Maybe add in a little top dressing and get the water to keep moving?
right. And if we're going to do it, obviously now is the time of year to do it. If we're waiting until summertime, at that point, we're gonna grow crabgrass, so we have an opportunity now to, yeah.
And my husband doesn't want crabgrass.
All right.
So I don't know if I,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, go take a look at it and
Yeah.
Want to make a motion? Or-
I think we need a motion.
you should go out and take a look at it. Yeah.
and if you're like, if there's a good time of the evening, early evening for us to, certainly we can knock on the door and,
Oh, yeah.
okay,
Yeah, anytime in the early evening.
great, okay.
Yeah, if I'm not there, my husband will be there.
Sure. Okay, what I'll do is I have your cell number, so I can call ahead and let you know that, when Mr. Burek and I are able to get together, and it'll be soon, I would imagine, probably, it's next week, probably next week, I would think.
Okay,
Okay. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I get your picture?
Oh, sure. Thanks.
And certainly you can feel free to stay. We're just going to continue with the rest of our agenda. We don't have guests very often, so.
Special.
Let me see, I think I only had 2 other items that I did want to mention. Wanted to make the board aware that Mark Langone has resigned from the department to take a position with the town of Hamden. He is taking on the position that Dana Pixley currently holds as highway superintendent in the town of Hamden. I think it's a good move for Mark and a good move for the town of Hamden.
I think it's a
good
great
fit.
opportunity for Mark.
Yeah, it is a loss to us, though, and it does put
I
us
agree.
in a bit of a bind, given that he's our cross-connection control inspector right now. We're in the process of coming up with a plan to make certain that we keep everything on track. Part of that plan is that you may recall that we had our town plumber, Joe Dunn, trained to be a cross-connection inspector about 1.5 years ago. So he already has been doing some of the inspections, and he'll be picking up more of those inspections. Our challenge, though, is that Joe has a lot of other things that he has to do as the town plumber, and lots of emergency response and HVAC calls and plumbing calls and things like that. So I am taking a look at right now 2 things. One, getting an additional staff person certified, which unfortunately probably won't actually happen until July or August due to the next course would be in June. It typically takes a couple of months to receive the certification once you take the examination. So it may mean that I reach out to some outside entities to help us get through this first round of inspections. We have to inspect, there's about 300 locations that we have to look at. Some locations twice a year, some locations once per year. The springtime is when we look at both the reduced pressure devices that have to be inspected twice per year and the double check valves that get inspected once per year. The fall is when we do typically just the reduced pressure devices for the second time. So our biggest workload happens in the spring. And like as I said, I'm looking right now to see if we'll do what we can with existing forces, and if Joe wasn't needed doing other things, he could step in and pick up where Mark left off, but I don't think we can dedicate him full-time. So again, we're maybe looking to, on a kind of a one-time basis, to make certain that we stay on track, bringing in some outside resources from, there's a couple of local firms that do small water system operations firms that have cross-connection inspectors on it that we could use to supplement our forces. The last item I did want to mention for the board's benefit is Mr. Esposito and myself are getting together either tomorrow or Friday to take a look, as we've talked about before, the town center, where we have the area heading south on Shaker Road that is seen an awful lot of truck traffic wear. And we're looking at either one of two options. Either it's really not the entire curve that is worn down, it's really the half end of the curve as you come onto Shaker Road. So we probably have two options. One would be to either pull the curb back and put pavement in the area that is currently, eroded through truck traffic, or look at putting cobblestones there. And we haven't at this point decided what we think would be the best way to go, but we do know we need to do that, and do that, as part of our early season activities this year.
The cobblestones seem to work well around the center of the rotary, and we brought that in when the trucks were going up over them.
They might be the best, and to cement them in, some concrete so they'll stay, because trucks are turning as they go through there.
We do have, there's a storm drain manhole there as well that we'll have to lower the cover on a little bit to.
But aesthetically, I think it'll look a little better right in the center.
Yeah, I looked at that same thing, and my opinion was at first was the cobblestones, but we're not really driving on them in the center as much as we will be driving on them over there. So.
We were, because they were tearing up the
Yeah,
island.
we're on it more than you think. And
You think so?
exit 3 in Vermont is the one I always go back to. That's where C&S Wholesale Grocers distribution facility is. I mean, we're talking thousands of trucks a day, and they have a roundabout at that exit 3. And the trailer wheels ride on that roundabout like all day long. But what it does is it gives the operator a fake sense of stay further right when you're going around. If that was just pavement, they'd go ahead and be that much further onto whatever isn't there. So I think it's a good optical dissolution or illusion, if you will, to keep them try and stay on the pavement, but we get it if your rear wheels are going to take a ride on the cobblestone. I think it really works well that way.
So what would you do? Put like a 10 inches of concrete or 12 inches of concrete?
Flowable or something.
And then mortar them in there?
Either flow or concrete slab, compacted gravel, the concrete, and then mortar the cobbling itself.
Yes.
Because if it's just a little bit of concrete,
Yeah.
and they can
Yeah,
hold
no, it
up.
would be, and probably put in some mesh as well to reinforce it.
That's what I'd go for.
So that was the last item I had.
Anything similar at Maple Court to Shaker?
Do that there too?
We could do that. The good news there is it's less expansive, if you know me. It's really just right at that corner.
Yeah.
That is where
I'm just
it's heavily
thinking,
torn
if
up.
we're doing it there,
Yeah.
is it worth it the same end of the day
Could be,
or day to
Yeah.
just do that little bit right there? Because that just keeps getting eroded
It's
away
another
into the
area.
road and street and dirt down the road.
Good idea.
But
Building manager's report. Bruce?
Yes, kind of an update on the town hall renovation project. All the rough framing is complete for the assessors and the accountant's office. We've actually hung the sheetrock in the accountant's office, and we have our first coat of mud in that area. Rough wiring will be completed by tomorrow, inspected. We've actually started putting some soundproofing up in some of the walls in the assessor's office, kind of keep the noise down in all those areas. So hopefully we'll be start sheetrocking the end of the day tomorrow into Friday, and get everything taped up and try to keep moving forward and start drop ceilings and all that stuff. So we're moving ahead at a pretty good rate. So I'll keep you guys up to date on the progress of that job. Field report, last Friday we finally finished our fertilizer program, our step 1 at the high school, so that was completed. We're hoping to maybe get our step 2 down, probably won't be for another month, probably the end of May, first week of June, depending on available funds. That step will be about $3,400 for us to apply, so we'll be looking into that in the upcoming weeks. Playscapes, bids were opened on April 27th for the playground equipment for Mountain View and Meadowbrook School. We did have a good turnout. We had 5 bidders. Green Acres Landscape and Construction for $140,000. Altiplay and Parks and Playgrounds Incorporated for $124,000. They gave us kind of 2 proposals, and for one for $116,000. They did not meet our bid requirements because we did not receive a bid bond with that bid package, so they were disqualified. Play Power Ltd. Gave us a price of $111,576. JL Construction Corporation for $118,500. And Mountain View Landscape and Lawn Care Incorporated for $146,000. So I've actually written a memorandum to the superintendent of the schools, recommend they award the project to Play Power LT. And that meeting will be on, I believe, May 9th, their next school committee meeting.
That's the one for 111,000?
Yes, $111,000 from Play Power LT.
One thing we did with this, and Bruce can talk about a little bit more, in order to make certain we knew what we were getting pricing for, because everyone's playscape is a little bit different than the other person's playscape. We actually had the, as a condition with the bid, to submit a conceptual drawing of what the playscapes would be, so we could be certain that we were getting what we expected to get.
Yeah, so part of that process was obviously making sure we're getting all the equipment, the pieces that we kind of spec'd out for each individual playscape, kind of compared those to make sure what we bid and what we're getting is actually what we were asking for. The next determining factor is obviously once we award the contract, is to actually, with their submittals and everything else, making sure pipe diameters, our hardware is stainless steel, just all kinds of other things that go along with that. So to make sure we keep an eye on, like I said, I guess the durability of the equipment and everything else moving forward. So that'll be our next process.
How much was appropriated for that?
$130,000. Now, we're going to be demoing the sites,
Right.
removing all the wood chips and actually excavating the proposed area where all the new equipment's going to be going.
And that doesn't include any mulch?
No. Oh, yes, this whole process,
There-
yes, but that's
Okay.
kind of one of the good things. We're going to take the existing mulch, kind of stockpile it up at the transfer station so we can use it at other locations in town also.
And that's installed?
Yes, that's everything, soup to nuts.
So we do the site prep, there's a little bit of site grading that has to happen to cut the site down, we get everything down to the subgrade, and then the vendor comes in and brings everything back to the final condition.
Do all their footings and everything else, and so.
In the 2 locations, just for Nicole's benefit, if you're interested, are 2 schools.
Yes, Meadowbrook and Mountain View School, actually both in the rear of the building. Kind of one area behind the old modular area. I believe at Mountain View, it's kind of a wooden structure and it's an old, I guess, I don't know, jungle gym. It's like a dome shaped structure. And then over at Meadowbrook School, it's over behind, actually, near the old modulars also, in the rear parking area over there.
And the timing of the work, I believe, we expect it to be done this summer.
Yes. I've actually, in the contract documents, I believe I gave them till August 8th to complete the work. So we're going to get the ball rolling and get everything done. Next item I have, just a vehicle update. Truck 78. It should be done by the end of this week. I haven't got the confirmed email back to pick it up, but we're at that point, so if not by the end of this week, early next week. I have the plates, the title, everything that goes along with it, so it's been a long time, so. And that being said, I'm actually working on the whole process as far as building our new trucks, along with Mark Langoni's actually kind of taking it, so I just got to finalize some of those specifications through MHQ for truck 2 and the new admin vehicle, that Ford Escape. So we'll get those right out, July 1st, so we don't run into this problem again.
And we did take a look at the mower as well.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Last Tuesday, we had Toro come up, gave us a demo on the new mower, 16-foot cut on it. Our existing cuts now are 12-foot. Very nice piece of equipment, static drive, has all the bells and whistles, a cab mount. It actually has breakaways on the wings and everything else, so if people hit anything, they break away. You know what I mean? So you don't do damage to the equipment. They stop, back up, lift a piece of the wings up. They, I guess, go back into place, and then they continue on mowing. So it's a really nice piece of equipment, real heavy duty, easy access for changing blades. They're actually on the cutting decks. There's hatches on the top side, so you don't have to get underneath it. So it's a real nice piece of equipment.
Our hope is that we can get the specs worked out, really have everything ready to go, so when town meeting hopefully approves funding for all of this equipment, be ready to pull the trigger and shorten the lead time in terms of getting it. We're not certain when this season we'd get the mower, but we're certainly hoping that we'll get it this season.
Right. He's pretty confident, like he said, after town meeting, if I can give him a letter of intent, it would probably be here roughly July 1st, around there. So.
That's good.
That's all I have.
Highway Utilities Managers Report.
Yes, I wasn't here last meeting, so I
Oh, we
have a
missed
bit
you.
more to add here.
You were here and
I was in Maine, actually. I was thinking about you guys during the meeting.
we were thinking of
As I
you.
was eating some lunch. As far as my report, sweeping, all the main roads are done. And we're going to be starting on the secondaries. All the catch basins, all the major ones that were a real hazard or on mains have been repaired, even the backlog. So we're just we have just the minor ones. We're taking care of those as they come in. Steve is doing a great job on potholes as they come up. We're trying to hit those, and we're continuing to keep them filled as they come in. Road repairs and driveways, we narrowed that list down, so there's just very few left. Plow damage, all the broken berm has been picked up, and we have a list of where we have to put that back. Lumen seed has been almost done. A couple more areas, so waiting for some dry weather to finish that up. As far as trees, being the tree warden now, I really taken a look at the backlog that we had. Tony's doing a great job with his crew, taking down a lot of trees that really saving the town a lot of money with that lift we're using. He has a couple more he has to take down. The rest of them, the ones that are hard to get or are dangerous, we're going to outsource those to a tree company. So I've compiled a list, and that's available. Sewer mains, we've been working on that list. All the problem areas have all been hit. And if we find any more, we're on them, and adding them to the list. Irrigation, all the irrigation has been repaired. There's a couple odds and ends we have to fix, but they're all been running. We have most of them, shut off now because of the weather, but we'll turn them back on as needed. The brush at the transfer station, we're trying to keep up with that with our tub grinder. Tom who took over my place, is doing a great job keeping up with the markouts and everything that's all coming in with appointments. A sidewalk, a meeting with a contractor to see if we can grind some of the edges down, as opposed to having them, replaced as they've heaved up. So I'm meeting with him on Friday.
Do we ever do that, look at that hydraulic, somewhere they can pump something down and lift it up? I know it's,
Expand.
Yeah, they pump a mud grout in them and float them up.
No.
Yeah, they'll bore like maybe 1.5 inch hole in it, and they'll pump like a mud grout in
Oh,
it.
really? And it will rate?
And that'll raise it up.
That's if, like you said, the conditions are right. If you have a heaved area, you don't want to bring the other one up to make a point. Certain,
Right.
areas you can do that, but I don't know about these.
We have some cases, and I think there was this curb that Mr. Mayberry had pointed out last year off of Prospect, that the curb was 1 inch or so higher than the sidewalk behind it. And given that it's a concrete curb, we can actually take the concrete curb down instead of having to completely dig it up, remove it, replace it, just by doing a little bit of grinding to then get rid of the trip hazard issues.
perfect.
Yeah, there's some areas you look at it and the sidewalks are perfectly fine. It's just heaved up a little bit. So by grinding in 1 inch down, they did it over at Quarry Hill. They had a contractor, nice and smooth. It's not like sharp. It's nice and level. It probably saves a lot.
I go up to Manchester, Vermont a lot, and all their sidewalks are granite, and they heave, but they just go through with surface grinders. And I've been up there sometimes when they're actually doing it. They just go right along with the surface grinder, and when they're done, the sidewalk looks like they just put it in.
Yeah.
So I don't know when they run out of granite, but
Yeah.
every year they have to grind
It's
certain
going
spots
down.
of it, It works.
As far as a mosquito spraying, another successful year. They came in at a good time. We had to update the map this year because there's been new buildings and so forth going in, and then it's creating more wetlands. So Amy, our new health department director, has been working with me. She's doing a great job, and we were able to update the map. For the future, we're going to be starting on berm repairs as soon as all the road hot patch and driveways are completed. We'll be starting on the transfer station upgrade, I would imagine, as soon as we get some dry weather. We'll be starting a water main project over on John Street. Probably in a couple of weeks, we'll be getting that started. We have some sidewalk repairs just around town that on the work order system. We're going to be either repairing short pieces or doing what we have to do to get those off the system. We also are going to be doing some cammering of sewer mains. We've been doing it, right along, but once we get caught up with the catch basins, we're going to be doing that. We're also continuing to clean, the basins, the sump with our catch basin cleaner. And soon we're going to be starting to paint the parade route. So we'll be get going on that, because that's going to be, we'll have to start that early. So that's probably in a couple weeks we'll be doing that. So that's all I have.
And that's one of the items that we're working on, training some new staff, because Roy had typically been the person leading those painting activities, and we now have others that'll be picking up that responsibility, and Roy will probably be out there the first night or two just to keep an eye on things, but then handing on that responsibility.
Yeah, I have faith in them.
Good. Good. Have we heard anything from the National Grid on streetlights replacement or repairs or
They,
missing lights?
Found a lot.
I know. That's what I was.
the first list of streetlights that we had sent to them probably 2-3 weeks ago, they've said that they've repaired all of them. So when I gave them the complete list, there was actually overlap between the first list and so they wrote back to me and have asked us to try to clarify which ones was from the first list, which ones are from the second list. So they were about halfway through, at least from their standpoint. Our contact, Joanne DeRose, is, I think, on vacation this week. She promised when she got back she would do that kind of vetting of the old list versus the new list. And yeah, we still have the issue of there's about a dozen streetlights that we couldn't find. They may be somewhere that we couldn't find them, but as far as we could tell, looking at them during daylight and nighttime, they're on National Grid's list of lights, but they don't appear to be there.
We found a pole, but there's no light on it, so for some reason they were taken down and never put back up.
I happen to frequent a restaurant, and sometimes there's somebody there that has a little bit of history, and he says that he knows of some that they moved. So,
Oh, if they don't tell us,
well, I guess if a resident petitions enough or does something, and they actually go out and look and they see that they can move at a pole or three, that has happened on occasion. So I don't know how we're gonna
15 times.
find where they moved, right?
We should have
So I don't know whether there's a GIS mapping that mapped one for one all the way down the line, and those are just plain missing.
What we started with was we started with their master list of lights that they tell us that we have.
Right.
And we went through that master look trying to find every single light that's on the list.
right?
And they had poll numbers associated with those.
Correct.
And we didn't find any extras anywhere,
Didn't
or we
find-
didn't necessarily look for extras, we just looked for theirs.
Yeah, we didn't, if there was extras, we wrote them on that list.
Yeah.
If we found extras, we would put a little note that, we found
So
these here.
could that have been the 15?
Doesn't appear to be.
It wasn't that many.
So if there's 100, if we're supposed to have 115 lights, we got 100, is what you're saying?
Yeah, but it's a lot
Add
more
a
than
zero.
that.
A little bit over 1,000 lights.
No, I know that. I
So,
know
yeah.
that.
So we're about 1 or 2% short, it looks like. So, it's real when you add up
It's real money.
25 cents a day per street light times
Oh, yeah, no,
365
it's
times
real
street
money.
light. It's real money.
There's also maybe 15 or so that were, that the ballast was gone, so they were just flickering, they were about to go out.
Okay. And I forget, irrigation, Bruce, or the soccer, no, lacrosse irrigation?
Yeah, that's up and running.
It's up and running, okay.
We turned it off this week.
Right. We turned it off.
Because of the seating and stuff, yeah.
And we
That's
did fully, not only did we seed the disturbed areas, but we overseeded the entire fields, taking advantage of the fact that that field is out of service for the season.
We did that last Friday, too.
No, that'd be great.
And do some starter fertilizer on
I
it.
know it is rain.
And we talked here about skinning the center field? That
Yes.
we're gonna do?
We're doing, yes, we were scheduled to do
Yeah,
that,
right.
try to get it done this week, but the
Right.
weather, so
Right.
hopefully next week.
We're ready to go.
Yeah, we have all the clay, everything, all the materials here, so just gotta wait for the nice weather.
It's skinning really and grading. The entire infield will be now graded where we're getting at least a 0.5% to 1% slope from essentially the pitcher's mound, it's not a mound, but the pitcher's area to the grass. So all the water will get off the clay and get out to the grassed area that can handle it better than sitting inside the infield like it does right now.
Excuse me if I already asked this, the clay bricks for the JV or the varsity, helping
Every-
them clay brick the mounds or something?
Yes, we actually did that last week, I believe, too.
Awesome.
Once they were done with the soccer field, we've actually finished the JV field. The kids came out right after school while we were finishing up, and they were just ecstatic about the whole thing, and while it's level, and taking pictures of it and everything else, so
Yeah.
Awesome,
we had some good feedback from them.
terrific.
Yep.
Again, I guess I'll just note that that's another department, interdepartment cooperative effort that we've been working with rec department. They're helping out with materials, and we're providing the labor together. We're coming up with a better product.
Good.
Yeah, we'll be doing the softball field the same way with the Durabricks and the whole, deeper, I guess, clay areas, so they wear less, I guess you could say, so.
Anything else?
I think I'm good.
Schedule the next meeting, we can't do the 18th because you've got a conflict.
We do have a big
I
conflict.
see that. I'm like,
17th works if Tuesdays work or don't work, I forget. Tuesdays no good?
No, it'll work.
oh, okay, 17?
17.
Okay.
Keep in mind, the town meeting will be the 16th, so if you're okay with 2 meetings in a row.
Unless you want, what's the 16th? Unless you want to do the 16th. Did you golf? You're golfing,
I
right?
can't.
Yeah, so we'll do 17th.
17.
Okay.
Okay, so the next
Town
meeting will
meeting's the
be May 17th, 5 o'clock at the service building. Mr. Mayberry, motion?
Mr. Wilson, motion? Oh, I'm doing
You're
it.
doing
All
motion.
right, so I'm going to move that we're going to go into executive session, not to return, the strategy with respect to potential litigation. So Mr. Mayberry made the motion.
Just second the motion.
Mr. Wilson?
Roll call. Mr. Burek, aye.
Mr. Wilson, aye.
Mr. Mayberry, aye.
Meeting adjourned.